The movie begins and we see a farm in the middle of a forest. Here we see a young and beautiful girl named Nancy, who is getting clapped by a guy. At a little distance, we see Nancy's uncle, who is writing down the client's name in his diary. We realize that Nancy is a call girl and get her cheeks clapped by anyone for money, and her uncle manages all the clients, and is basically her pimp. After getting those cheeks clapped, she got up and started walking with her uncle, ready to meet her next client. Even after getting her cave scavenged by so many people in one day, Nancy still had capacity for more. We get to know that Nancy is a really talented girl with big melons. After getting clapped in the evening, she comes back home with her uncle and she has bought a lot of groceries with her. We get to know that this family is really poor and struggling with money. We get to know about Nancy's little sister Misa and her uncle's son Roki. Nancy's uncle gives Misa a candy, and everyone is very happy to see so many food items that they had brought home. After having dinner, Nancy's uncle sits outside the house and drinks some beer. He then starts doing all the data handling of Nancy and her clients. Suddenly, Roki comes there and sits next to his father. Roki conveys his desire to get a job so that he can help support the family, and so that Nancy can stop selling her body for money. Roki is very well aware of the kind of business Nancy and his father are in, and knows how dangerous some customers can be sometimes. So Roki gave his father a pocket knife, so that he can protect Nancy in case of an emergency. Then Roki gets up and stands near the bathroom, and Nancy gets out after having a nice bath. Nancy was getting ready to go to another client. In the morning, Nancy walks with her uncle ready to meet her client, but due to a disagreement between Nancy and her client, Nancy refused to let him clap her. But the client doesn't listen and inserts his Excalibur inside her cave. Nancy let out a cry for help. Her uncle was right outside having a beer. Hearing Nancy's screams, he came inside and told the client to stop and leave Nancy alone. But the client had no intentions to stop. Nancy somehow manages to get his Excalibur out of her cave and then runs to her uncle. The client pushes her uncle, and by accident the uncle got his throat slit by the same pocket knife which Roki had given him. Nancy was horrified and started crying at her uncle's death. Nancy tells everyone in the family about her uncle's death, and they are all shocked and sad. Nancy comforts Misa, placing a hand on her shoulder. As days go by, the family was running out of money. Nancy's uncle's phone was still getting calls from Nancy's clients. So for the first time, Nancy picks up the phone. The client calls Nancy to meet her. Nancy reluctantly agrees, knowing their family needs the money. But since it is too dangerous for Nancy to go alone, Roki says he will come along with her. In the forest, Nancy was getting clapped by her new client, while Roki was writing down the client's details on the diary. Roki has now taken the role of his father. After getting clapped for half an hour by the client, Nancy starts walking home with Roki. While walking, she remembers one of her clients who was about to give her a lot of money for one session, but she never got the time to go to him. But since their condition is so poor now, she is ready to go meet this rich client. When Nancy and Roki go to this client, we get to know that this man is the head of the village. He is also the richest man in the village, but he had a problem with his son Joshua because Joshua was gay. The town head has called Nancy to make his son a man. He also told Nancy and Roki that no one in the village must ever get to know about Joshua being gay. When Nancy goes into Joshua's room with him, Joshua refuses to clap her, so they make a plan. Nancy will make loud moaning noises so that the town head will think that his son is clapping Nancy's cheeks, but they wouldn't actually be doing anything. They do as they planned. Town head feels happy that his son has become a man, and he pays a huge fee to Roki. The next day, Roki spread an advertisement about Nancy, and all the men from the village came to visit Nancy's cave for scavenging purposes. Everything was going great and they were earning a lot of money, but then a police officer named Samuel got to know about Nancy and Roki running this illegal business. So Samuel confronted Roki about this and threatened to put them in jail and shut the business down. But in the end, Samuel suggested that he would let them continue their business for a commission, so Roki agreed. The commission also included a free scavenging ticket to Nancy's cave, and he did some deep scavenging, and he had never been this satisfied before. Samuel also made Roki get intimate with his gay friend. Roki vomited sometimes while performing the act, but did as Samuel had told him to. 2 months passed by, and now even Roki had started having sessions with the women of the village. The entire town now knows these two siblings as prostitutes, and their business is running smoothly. As Roki and Nancy were returning home after clapping and getting clapped by their respective customers, they found Samuel on the way, and Samuel took his commission for this month from them. Next morning, we see Nancy has gotten really sick and she is feeling very cold, so Roki tugs her in with the blanket and goes outside to buy medicine. Meanwhile, Samuel was riding on a bike when he glanced at a girl who was walking home from college while having her face glued to her phone. Samuel had ill intentions with the girl. The girl returns to her house and changes her clothes, but Samuel was also there, peeking through the window taking a look at her changing. In the next scene, we see Samuel's gay friend, who was really drunk and asked Roki to get intimate with him. But the guy was so intoxicated that Roki didn't have to do anything, and he carefully took out his wallet and kept the money. He also took his expensive watch as he left the place. Roki bought expensive medicines for Nancy with the money he stole, and Nancy's health got a little better, though she was still bedridden. With Nancy unavailable, Roki had to handle the entire family clapping business, so he called the town head's son Joshua to take care of Nancy, keeping his father under the impression that Nancy will be making him into more of a man. And when Joshua arrived, he took great care of Nancy and treated her very nicely. Meanwhile, Samuel had caught Roki stealing, because Roki was still wearing the stolen watch in his arm. So Samuel locked up Roki in prison. A shocking twist is revealed as we find the college girl also locked up in a cell beside Roki. Samuel had kidnapped this girl, but turns out Samuel had not even put his hands on her yet, because he wanted to do it with her when she wanted him to, and not force himself upon her. Meanwhile, due to Roki's absence, the family was once again short on money. Nancy tried to ask for some food at a lower price, but the woman owning the shop told her to go away. Due to weakness, Nancy fell down unconscious in her own house, after which her little sister Misa woke her up after some persistence. Meanwhile, in prison, we get to know that the college girl's name is Amaya. Amaya asked Roki for help, but Roki said that they can't do anything to get out of this situation. Amaya asks Roki if he can think of a plan to escape. Samuel hears their conversation and is angry. In an attempt to show Amaya his dominance, he opens Roki's cell and beats him up mercilessly. He then threatens Roki, saying if he tries to escape, he will kill Roki. Next, we see Samuel making Amaya change her clothes, and he even touched her melons. Roki helplessly watches all this, knowing he can't do anything to protect Amaya. Now, Samuel found Roki's diary, where he used to write all the earnings and client details. And seeing all the money, he came to Roki and told him to pay him a hefty sum of money and he will let him go. But Roki said that he spent all that money to buy expensive medicines for Nancy. Samuel, lost in greed, decided to still make money off of this situation and made a plan. He called one of Nancy's clients from the diary, and when the client came, Samuel told him to get intimate with Amaya instead of Nancy, to which the client agreed. The client went inside the cell and made Amaya taste his Excalibur. Then he was about to infiltrate the cave when suddenly Samuel stopped him. Samuel seemed to have had a change of heart and realized that he was going a bit too far. He told the client to go away. Roki then told Samuel that Nancy is probably in good health by now, and she can come here and make Amaya ready to get intimate with Samuel. So Samuel sent a message to Nancy to come to the police station, and she came quickly. Meanwhile, Roki told Amaya that when Nancy arrives, all three of them will be able to leave in some time. But as soon as Nancy arrives, Samuel locks her up in the same cell as Amaya. Nancy is confused and doesn't understand what's happening. Then Roki explains to Amaya, saying that she needs to prepare Amaya to get intimate with Samuel, and only after that, they will let all three of them go. Nancy is initially reluctant, but knowing there is no other way, she does as she is ordered to. She bathes Amaya and washes her up with a towel, making her ready. Now, Samuel took Amaya to her bed, and even though Amaya told him to stop, Samuel didn't listen and he kept on going. He soon started getting very aggressive with Amaya, and Amaya's desperate screams of help could be heard by Nancy and Roki, who cried in guilt. After clapping Amaya, he left her in the same cell with Nancy, and Nancy gave her some painkillers. At night, Samuel came back, ready to clap Amaya again. But Nancy stopped him and told him to have mercy on her, as she just had her first time a few hours ago. She then offered herself to Samuel instead of Amaya. So Samuel and Nancy start doing it in front of Amaya, and as Samuel was lost in pleasure, suddenly, Nancy slit his throat with the pocket knife, ending his life. She then quickly took the keys and unlocked Roki's cell. Meanwhile, Amaya took a wooden rod and plunged it inside Samuel's man cave, and she felt a lot of satisfaction in doing that, even though he was dead already. After that, Amaya, Roki, and Samuel run out of the prison, and they all run to Nancy and Roki's house. They know they must escape because if anyone catches them, they will get arrested for murder. They also take Nancy's sister Misa with them. Coincidentally, even Joshua arrived there with his car, and he also wanted to go away from this place. In the next scene, we see all of them are outside the village. Roki and Amaya are now in a relationship, and all of them are happy to be away from the madness of the village. With that, the movie ends. Thank you for watching.